This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and finally, I know you folks have been very patient waiting for this. We had a number of mishaps trying to get this review unit here. Finally, it's the Nexus 6P. Big Nexus on the back. You get the idea. Distinctive looking, isn't it, with this very large glass window on the back here. Do you like the way that looks? I leave that one up to you. That's beauty is in the eye of the beholder kind of thing. Obviously, this is the silver one. It's also available in black, and there's a white one too that's very attractive. That one, I believe, is only available if you get the 64 gig or higher storage options. Speaking of which, it's available at 32, 64, 128 gigs of storage. It has this neat little fingerprint scanner on the back right here. It is the big cousin to the Nexus 5X that we already reviewed. This one has a more powerful CPU, a bigger and higher resolution display. In fact, 5.7-inch Super AMOLED QHD resolution. Gorgeous looking. It's actually a very nice looking phone. I mean, aside from the strange little stripe on the back that you'll either love or hate, or maybe. Anyway, it's very thin. It's fairly light, 6.27 ounces, 178 grams, which is not bad for a phone that is this big. And it is about the size of the iPhone 6s Plus. We'll compare it with a couple of other phones so you can see. We're going to look at it now. So here it is, finally, the Nexus 6P. This is Google's higher end of the pair of phones they released in late 2015. Pure Android experiences you'd expect from a Nexus, and this is made by Huawei, who's made some pretty impressive phones lately. They're still not the big seller in the United States. They do pretty well in Europe and elsewhere, and they can make some beautiful product. In fact, the Huawei watch that we reviewed was one of the most attractive Android Wear watches. Of course, beauty is only skin deep, as they say. This is a very powerful smartphone, too. It has the Qualcomm Snapdragon 810 2 gigahertz octa-core CPU inside. That's the fastest Snapdragon CPU currently available, 3 gigs of RAM inside, and your choice of 32, 64, or 128 gigs of storage. Because this is a Google product and Google despises removable storage, there is no micro SD card slot. There is a nano SIM card slot right here that requires the usual Poke tool. One is included in the box. And that's where you put in your nano SIM. This is an unlocked phone, not just GSM. It's CDMA as well. What does that mean? It works on not just AT&T and T-Mobile with 4G LTE, but also Sprint and Verizon. In fact, I'm running this with a Verizon SIM card in it. Good times. So that's pretty nice. Obviously, this is the aluminum silver finish that we have right here. You can get it in black, and these are anodized aluminum surfaces, all real metal. It's pretty nice. You can get it matte black, and there's also a white one, and the white one is the high-end option. If you get the 64 gig, you can get that, but not the 32 gig. This little piece at the end here is plastic. There are antennas over here, and usual antenna lines on the edge that are unavoidable in phones. USB-C port for charging and for syncing. Now, happily, unlike the Nexus 5X, besides the USB-C to USB-C cable and charger in the box, and that's a quick charger, 3 amp quick charger, they also have a little shorty cable that goes from USB-C to standard USB-A, which is the kind of USB port that we have on our computers today. So if you need to transfer stuff, you can do it. That's always handy. So you want to get photos off or something like that without having to go through some cloud service. Or if you want to copy music onto it quickly from your computer, that little cable will come in handy. Up top, more antenna lines, our headphone jack, and chamfered edges here all around. Gives it a nice premium look. Will it scratch eventually? There's certainly a chance that it will. So far, ours hasn't, but I'm pretty careful with my phones, too. And also, the light silver won't show it as much. Power button here with some texture on it, so you can feel the difference between it and the volume rocker on the side. But I hardly use the power button because we have the fingerprint scanner on the back. Again, with the little chamfered edge here, designed so either hand, your finger's gonna pretty much just lay right there. So that can just touch it there. You don't have to click anything. You don't have to hit any buttons. It'll unlock the phone, and you'll be ready to go. One minor complaint is I do like it better when the scanner is on the front, so you can see and make sure your finger is centered, but they did a real good job in terms of the tactile feel here. You can pretty well feel just with your finger, and you can tell if you've got it centered or not. So it hasn't been much of a problem, unlike the LG V10, which has a scanner on the back and not enough tactile feel going on. Under the glass here, we have more antennas going on. We have the IR for laser autofocus. We have the 12.3 megapixel camera. Sony sensor, large 1.55 micron pixel sensor sights for better low-light photos. Your two-tone LED flash here. Front has an 8 megapixel selfie camera, which, as you might guess, takes, well, pretty good selfies. Speaking of the LG V10, we have that right here. Big phone, this Nexus. This is the 5.7-inch one. If you like smaller, you might want to consider the 5X. Though it's easier to hold than the Nexus 6 was, made by Motorola. That one was a pretty thick one, but you can see it's about the same size as the LG V10. And here we have the iPhone 6s Plus, just about identical. They're both very slim phones. They're both just about the same size. The iPhone is the more slippery one because it has those rounded edges that look really pretty and all that sort of thing. But the straight edges on this really help you keep a grip on it. So I haven't felt like I was going to drop this. So folks, I tell you, I really like this phone. If you just want to stop watching right now and want to know if Lisa from Noble Tech Review likes the phone, yes, I do. One of the reasons I do is not just because it's a pretty good looking phone in person. You know, from pictures it might be hard to tell, but it's very nice looking. I like bigger phones. You have to be okay with bigger phones. As you saw, this is a big phone. It may not be as awkward as the Nexus 6 was, but it's still big. But this AMOLED display, it's absolutely lovely. They say it's the latest generation Samsung AMOLED panel, sometimes with manufacturers to save some money or because Samsung has supply issues. They end up buying older generation panels. This is the latest technology inside. It's QHD 2560 by 1440, and it has AMOLED's vibrant colors and rich, deep blacks that I've come to really enjoy, honestly. And it's not so blown out that it's unnatural looking. Now, when you're going to take pictures with the camera on this, you're going to think it's the most brilliant camera in the world because the colors will be so crisp and the contrast will be so high. A lot of that is the panel. No, the camera is pretty good, but we'll get to the camera. Anyway, nice display on this, and hidden under developer options, and for those of you who don't know where that is, you go to settings, and this is pure Android Marshmallow, by the way, another nice thing, 6.0.1. Anyway, you tap there, and developer options doesn't show up. You actually have to go to About Phone and tap on the build number 7 times, and it'll say, woohoo, you're a developer. I don't know why they do that, but once you do that, for some reason they've hidden the sRGB color option, picture color mode, there. If you rather have it look more like a standard LCD in terms of color saturation, there you have it. And did you notice OEM unlocking? So if you want to unlock your bootloader, makes it a little bit easier there too. It is a Nexus phone. It's meant for you ROM cooks, all those folks who want to unlock their phone, do all sorts of things, or just appreciate clean Android and getting the latest Android builds more quickly than most everybody else, because you don't have to go through carrier permissions with this first. There's no manufacturer in between. It's Google's own phone, made by Huawei, yes, but Google's in charge of it. It had Android 6.0 Marshmallow out of the box. It got the 6.01 update. I have not had any problems. I've had great success with it so far. Speaking of the battery, 3450 milliamps. That's an ample size battery. It is sealed inside. This is a unibody metal phone. You can't get to the battery to swap in a spare like you could with the LG V10, for example. Battery life on this has been very good for me. I mean, it's a pretty high capacity battery, but you've got the Snapdragon 810, which is a power hungry little CPU there and a big display. Battery life has been, well, let's put it this way, I have not been able to kill this in a day unless I'm doing something like binging on Asphalt 8 racing or something like that. It is quite good. Certainly in excess of 5 hours of screen on time. If you're going to be playing video in a loop to test it or something like that, you're going to just have to let it go for the whole business day to do it. So battery life on this is quite good, and Android does help to save power when the screen is off, but even screen on times have been quite good with this. It's been a pleasure. It does support quick charging. Again, a quick charger is in the box. It's a fast 3 amp charger, so it will charge up very quickly. No wireless charging here. Metal back phones generally don't have that, so you're going to actually have to use a charger or a battery pack and a USB-A to USB-C probably adapter, or goodness knows, some of those are micro USB. It gets complicated when it comes to that because of USB-C. Everybody's excited by it because it's a forward-thinking new kind of reversible port. Doesn't matter which way you stick the cable in. Experientially using the phone, it's a fast phone. In terms of benchmarks, Quadrant, 24,940. Antutu, 87,593. Geekbench 3, 1349 for the single core, 4962 for the multi-core test on this. 3D Mark Ice Storm Unlimited, 28,001. A 3D Mark Slingshot, which is a more difficult test, it's a 1440p test, 1844. And we'll put that in a comparison graph for you so you can see those numbers. You don't have to keep replaying this section to listen to my voice again. It's a fast phone. That's all I can say about it. All right, with the help of Ernie the Bath Toy, here we are looking at the camera now. It's a 12.3 megapixel camera. Sony sensor inside, large micron pixel 1.55, so it's good in low light as well. It's the same sensor that you're going to get in the Nexus 5X, but the lens on the back is supposed to be better on this one. It takes lovely pictures. It does not take pictures and video that are as good as the Samsung Galaxy S6, Note 5, or the LG G4 and V10, which are the best camera phones on the market right now in Android land. But it's pretty darn close, and considering that this is less expensive, starting at $499 or $450 if you buy it absolutely right now while it's on sale for the Christmas holiday season, it is a very pleasing camera. Honestly, it is. And UI for Google, sometimes they've done some pretty weird things with the camera UI, and this is for them, pretty simple. It starts with 4:3 aspect ratio. You can change that if you want, though. You got photosphere. Google will never give up on that. Panorama, lens blur, which tries to create a bokeh effect with background blur, and settings, resolution, and quality right here. And you can see we can choose from different aspect ratios and resolutions there. If we go with 16:9, it does drop down to 8.3 megapixels. Not the end of the world, honestly, there, if you do that, though. Front camera is 8 megapixel. Good camera there. Video, you can go up to 4K at 30 frames per second. Front camera obviously can do 1080p. Focusing is quick. It does have laser-assisted autofocus, something that we have seen on the LG phones, and you can see it working on autofocusing. Sometimes you'll see it do a little bit of focus and refocus when you're shooting video, if you're shooting a fast-moving target, but otherwise it's not a problem. Shoots very quick. We have HDR plus mode over here, which generally speaking works pretty well. Your flash control as well. So let's take a look at some pictures. Not so much Ernie the Bath Toy there, but speaking of background blur, now here's something neat. I didn't use any background blur effect, but you can see here I was playing with the depth of field. This is an f2.0 lens, which should actually give us a little bit of depth of field control given the larger sensor size. And in this picture, I was focusing on these flowers here, and indeed they are sharper, not the orchid in the foreground. And on this one, I focused on the orchid in the foreground, so it is sharper than the flowers behind it. So you can actually do a little bit of photographic effect. Just some pretty flowers right there. Landscape pretty flowers. Shot of shiny BMW. This is to look at how it handles whiteout and reflections. A silver car on a bright day like that. And we've got some white out there on the fender area, but nothing that isn't forgivable. And you can see that in just the standalone digital cameras as well. There is a selfie picture right there. Now, that's one of the least hideous selfie pictures I've ever seen. It is still a pretty wide angle lens. I had to hold that pretty far away, so it's still going to exaggerate your features and all that kind of thing, the way front cameras do. But it's sharp, the details are good, the colors are good on it, and here you can really see the texture and the dimensionality of the figure here, and just the detail of the rocks and the leaves. It's a nice camera. It really is. Like I said, the Samsung Galaxy S6 still shows it up for having even more digicam, real true digicam-like pictures and a little bit better video, but this is still quite good. I would not mind using this as my primary phone in terms of the photographs that it takes. In terms of multimedia enjoyment, we have front-facing stereo speakers here. Now, if you're using the speakerphone for a phone call, it's only going to use the bottom speaker. I think that's to avoid accidentally deafening you by blasting sound out here, should you happen to put it against your head while having a phone call. So here's where our volume is set at right now. Well, for a phone, it sounds pretty good. I'm not quite sure it's HTC Boom Sound front stereo speaker good, but it's quite good. This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and it's the Dell XPS 15 Infinity again, 9.5. For doing things like watching YouTube, I absolutely wouldn't mind using this phone. Sound is pretty good. Speaking of call quality, since we're talking about that, call quality is quite good. We tested this on AT&T and Verizon, and in both cases we had nice, clear audio. LTE speeds were par for the course, what you'd expect from any phone today on those carriers. And generally, given radio certifications and all that kind of thing, there's not a whole lot of variability between phones there, but you do get LTE 4G on all the major carriers. And again, unlocked, no contracts, no monthly payments, none of that sort of thing. And now for our requisite gaming here with the usual Asphalt 8. Oh, I wish I was on that new Area 51 track, but we'll just stick with the basic Nevada. Plays very smoothly, very perfectly. Let's see if we can do some obnoxious takedowns. Not this time. We're going to go this way. Okay. Oh. That's what happens when you try to play with bad manners. Anyway, the frame rates here are just fine. The colors are beautiful. It's a huge screen. I mean, that is so fun for gaming and all that sort of thing. So, yep. If you want to play the latest games, if you want to get the best performance possible, obviously this phone would be it. When you play games, it will get warm here. It does not get burning hot. Thin phone that's metal with a fast processor. You're going to feel the heat. But you know the Snapdragon 810 has a reputation for running hot, and it seems to be quite managed here. So yet another score for the phone. It's great for gaming. It's a pretty good camera phone as well. Voice quality is nice on this. The screen is lovely on it. Battery life is good too. It's a win-win-win. And again, it starts at $499 normal price for the 32 gig. Each storage increment up will add another $50. So that'll be $550 if you want the 64 gig, and $599, or just call it $600 if you want the 128 gig model. So that's the Nexus 6P, chamfered metal edges, anodized aluminum backs, all sorts of nice bells and whistles here. A very high-end device, but the price is pretty nice for that. Starting at $499. There's a Christmas special going on right now, Christmas 2015, where it's $50 off. That'll soon be over, I guess. Anyway, it's a nice flagship phone for less money than you'd usually spend. And like I said, it's unlocked for all major U.S. carriers and many minor ones too. So even Sprint and Verizon can get in on the goodness of this phone. It's really nice. It's really nice. I like it a lot. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Be sure to visit our website for the full written review and hit that like button.